Alright, what's up? How's it going here? Right now this is going to be an informational video on my first ever website spotlight or reaction to a website, but uh, in all reality, I, this is going to be an informational video, but I'm certain my own personal biases will get into this. Hopefully not corrupted. I'll try and stay pretty objective, but while giving my opinion. But hopefully I can do one of these potentially every month. I'm not too sure. This idea sort of just popped into my mind, and yeah. So let's get into this. We're on Scruffy.com right now, and this is the I suppose you could say, personal website of Piero Scruffy. And he's most famous on the internet, at least, for the following short little article, which it's pretty popular. It starts off: the fact that so many books still name the Beatles as the greatest or most significant or most influential rock band ever only tells you how far rock music is still from becoming a serious art. And it's sort of been memeified on the internet, sort of unfairly, unfairly in my opinion at least, because I agree with some of the critiques he makes of the Beatles. Like they certainly are. He compares them to what is it? He says, I can only name religious fundamentalists as annoying and as threatening as Beatles fans. And well, that's extreme. I assume he's obviously making a bit of a joke there, but this is what sort of I was sort of into the memeified impression of him until I read the following. They've turned me into some kind of internet celebrity, not because of the 6,000 bios I've written, not because of the 800-page book that I've published, not because of the 30 years of cultural events I organized, but simply because I downplayed the artistic merits of the Beatles. And that really made me sympathize with them, because I was like, at first I was like, well, that sort of comes across as pretentious, but I mean, exploring his website, it's certainly not like perfect, but it's really interesting to like read. He even has to read his reviews and his impressions on music, because he has listened to a ton of music, and he has a very good perspective on this sort of stuff. And as he says, truly independent opinions, and like he's very critical of a lot of music, and a lot of music that I personally like. But I mean, if anything, that's just a good thing, you know. It's who you're dealing with. This isn't some collaborative effort of like a magazine with 30 different reviewers that are just trying to sell magazines. This is one man who has a very strong historical knowledge of music, and he's providing his own opinions. And I'd strongly recommend that you read this What is Unique About This Music Database page. And you may have noticed, going on these first 3 pages that I've shown you through, that this has sort of a dated format, but I mean, if anything, that sort of adds to its charm. And as he says, I'm not sure if it's okay. Yeah, as he says here, this is actually a really good page if you're on the edge about sort of checking out this website. It has a ton of it pretty much states the best cases that you can make for why you should use this website. But the reason for this format is sort of, as he states here, that it's fast. You know, pages take like load in a snap. I mean, not that there's any problems with that for me personally, but I mean, I can totally empathize and say, like, hey, I'm sure there are some people out there who don't have the fastest internet or the fastest computer, and like this is pretty helpful. But moving on to the content of the site, at least, I don't know how frequently he updates, creates these music reviews now, but there's certainly so much to go through in the past that even if the outpouring isn't necessarily as great as it was relatively in the past, like there still definitely are some new reviews. And you see here, this is his recent music reviews page, which I just wanted to show, sort of point out. He's got some recent stuff all the way back to The Life of Pablo, but I really wanted to show this page because it has the ratings scale, which is 10 is the best album ever, so obviously he only gives out 110. 9 is rock masterpiece, 8 buy it now, 7 buy it eventually, 6 buy it if you're a fan, And out of these, however many recent reviews, he's given us the highest I think he gave. All right, yeah. So he gave. I thought there was an 8 on this page. Yes, there is. The highest he gave was an 8 out of 10, and 3 7.5s. So not. I mean, you might think he's insanely critical if you go on the pages of the artist that you're a fan of, but I mean, there definitely is some like a lot of music that he I suppose you could say approves of, because that's somewhere in between the buy it eventually and buy it now stage for the most part. Yet some very critically acclaimed albums like The Life of Pablo or Lemonade, he gives a 4 out of 10. But obviously, if you get into the actual text of it, he explains why, and he sort of looks at the context of music. And the historical context of music as well as the artistic merits. And I mean, those are both critically acclaimed albums. But I mean, if you have the reasoning, like I pretty much agree with those already, and I can't say I've personally spend all too much time reading about that. But here we have some of last year's best. So this has a few of the albums that we just saw on that last page, and then a few more. So some of the albums of 2016, and you can go through and read the reviews. And this sort of has an interesting playlist because it separates, I guess, long music and then his playlist. So I guess I'm pretty sure that these are songs. I thought they were albums for a second, but I'm pretty confident that these are just songs. So like a playlist of some of the better yes, a playlist of some of the better songs of the year, and then a separate sort of jazz section. And unfortunately, quite a few of these recent years don't have the by genre stuff, but details. But his past stuff, oh my, there's so much content. Now, if we go on to the best rock albums of the 2010s, you can see sort of how conservative he is with his reviews. Because in the if we go back here to the review of new albums, rock masterpiece, there has not been a single rock masterpiece in the last, according to him at least, as in the 2010s so far. And maybe that's true, but I mean, personally, I love a lot of albums recently released. But I mean, this is definitely in a way his opinion, and carries his own personal biases. But this is it's definitely a good resource to use if you're interested in listening to music, and it's especially a good if you're interested in listening to good and acclaimed music, and it's definitely a good resource to use if you agree with Mr. Scruffy on like a lot of his musical tastes. And I mean, there's a fair amount of albums here. I've got to assume that this is the best rock album, so I assume he approves of some. I'm not all too interested in jazz or classical. I think those are the two sections. I'm sorry, I forget. But you can sort of see here, not a ton of albums, but I mean it adds up as you go on, and it's formatted. The formatting on this site is one of the only problems I could see having, because you see here so much space on either side, but at least it's for a good cause. Like it's in the mindset of, okay, I want as many people to be able to read this as possible, which is perfectly acceptable, and if anything, applaudable. So yeah, we see here best rock albums of the 2010s, and now this is some of the meat and potatoes. You can see the contained profiles of 8,600 musicians. That's not 8,600 different pages, because that would be insane. But if you look here, going through a crazy amount of artists that he's covered, and I'm pretty sure some people on the internet consider him pretentious and stuff like that, but I think it's just he's particular. He knows what he knows. He has the idea of what is good, and he knows he's okay. That's good, because it's not like he shies away from artists like ELO or Kanye and calling them good. And then the best rock albums of all time. Boy, are there some real obscure albums here, but I think this is a great list. Definitely check this out on your own time. And if if you see this, Mr. Scruffy, and you want me to take it down, just email me or something like that. Comment below and I'll communicate with you. Email me, I'll take it down. Thank you very much for watching this very first website spotlight of Scruffy.com. Thank you for watching.